This meeting of the Starkville Board of Aldermen will now come to order. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Alderman Vaughn would like to say a word of prayer, and we will observe a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, by the way of the Holy Spirit. Father God, again, here's a few of your handmaid servants, the mayor of the board, the city attorney, and all your departments here. Again, Father, we're calling on you for guidance and direction. Praying, Father God, that every decision that we make give glory to you and your darling Son, Jesus. Father God, we pray that you will move all the stumbling blocks and all the obstacles that we face. Father God, that we can make the citizens of Starkville happy and take Starkville in this direction that you want us to take it in. Father, we give you praise, we give you glory. We ask you to please forgive us of all our sins. Strengthen us where we're weak, and take the reins of our mind and guide and direct us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
You now have before you a copy of the written agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda as written?
Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Under personnel I-3,
Yes.
I'd like to amend that to just say to advertise to fill the position after the police chief has been selected.
All right, so the text would read the same, but at the end, it would say after the police chief has been accepted.
Selected, yes.
Or has been selected. All right, so the item would read approval of the job description for the Assistant Chief of Police at a salary grade 16 and to advertise to fill the position after the Chief of Police has been selected, otherwise as presented. And it would remain on consent. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear any objection?
Sir, I'm just going to ask to be removed from consent.
All right, so that item will be removed from consent. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
I do. Under Board Business A, I would like to move that item to consent, move the public hearing.
We'll take the public comments now.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to place a resolution declaring the intention of the city of Starkville to authorize and approve West Point and Clay County to share a commissioner position on the Golden Triangle Regional Airport Authority Board as presented. That item by law requires a public hearing. So what Alderman Maynard is proposing to do is to place that on the consent agenda. If it is indeed approved on the consent agenda, when the consent agenda is approved, that item will be approved. So before we can go any further, I will ask to hear any comments at this time. Are there any comments on that resolution? Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? All right, seeing none, that item will be placed on the consent agenda without objection. Is there an objection? Any objection? All right. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Just one question on, under Information Technology H, number 1. I would like to ask Mr. Joel Clements to step forward and just explain that purchase and why it's a benefit to the city, please.
Certainly, we'll be glad to, Alderman. This storage array purchase is part of our ongoing business continuity and disaster recovery plan. Phase 1 was implemented last year with on-site data replication here at City Hall. This Phase 2 will allow us to replicate all our data off-site. We plan to do this at Starkville Electric Department's headquarters across town. This will give us another layer of security and data replication in the unfortunate event that something were to happen to this facility. We would have all our data retained and be able to continue business somewhat normally.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions to the agenda?
That is all, sir. Thank you.
Are there any further proposed revision to the agenda from the members of the board? Any further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as revised is in order.
So move.
Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. You now have before you the approval of the consent agenda. Do I hear any objection to the consent agenda? Any objection to the approval of the consent agenda? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, the consent agenda as revised has been approved. We have no minutes for your consideration tonight, so that will take us to announcements and comments by the mayor and members of the board, and I have no comments this evening. Are there any comments from the members of the board?
I would like to be recognized, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Nguyen.
Tonight I'll be reading an email, and as a board member, I receive so many emails, and of course, I always like to hear from my constituents and those in other parts of our city that my ward that I don't represent. I will not be using his name tonight, as Alderman Little has also received this email, but it's great to receive an email from someone who shares the same beliefs that you do about your city. And it says, "Dear Lisa Nguyen, I would like to know if there are any efforts in Starkville by developers to build national chain box stores. Starkville has abundant land on the Highway 25 bypass, Highway 12 bypass, and sections of Highway 12 and Russell Street. In recent newspaper articles concerning the mill project, current developer Mark Castleberry stated that the retail portion of the project was removed when he took over the project. The latest plans for the mill project include the conference center, one or more hotels and restaurants. At the same time, our neighbor to the east has aggressively pursued national retail box stores and has been successful. I realize that Columbus has different demographics than Starkville, but I believe Starkville can support more retail than is currently available. I also believe that if Starkville would pursue the retail as aggressively as Columbus, including using TIF funding, that more would be interested in locating here, and also easing up on some of the ordinances that make Starkville seem anti-business, like sidewalks on the bypass. I believe that many Starkville residents want to see more retail in town. Many Starkville residents leave town to shop in their favorite national retailers in neighboring towns and take their tax revenue with them. I like the local shops in town. Buy these shops, just do not cover all retail categories. Where in town can you buy upscale bedding like the Quality of Built? What about the equivalent of Michael's or Hobby Lobby? Walmart does not have a large selection. What about Dick's Sporting Goods? I know Sporting Center is quality store, but I know people in Starkville that will drive to Dick's and shop there just because it is a nationally known store. PetSmart. Now that Columbus is getting these stores, I'm worried that it's too late for Starkville to become a retail center. I see Starkville continuing to lose revenue to Columbus. Economic development is definitely a game, and Starkville is trailing. I just wanted to read that email. It's great to receive an email from someone who shares my beliefs. Thank you, and I yield the floor at this time.
Alderman Walker.
I would advise Alderman Nguyen to respond to this person's email and say, yes, we are aggressively trying to attract those, and if you look at the current sidewalk ordinance, there is nothing on the bypass that requires them to build a sidewalk. So I would like to inform that citizen that the sidewalk ordinance already prohibits sidewalk development along the bypass. So to clear the facts up about where sidewalks are and are not required, I think would go a long way in trying to change people's perception, because in this case, it's an incorrect perception of what's actually being required by our current ordinances.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized
You
at
may.
this time? Alderman Walker, first of all, I'm certainly glad that that is an opinion of yours and certainly not a fact. I'm
That's
comfortable.
fact.
I get
One at
it.
a time.
I'm comfortable with the email response that I put in writing to the person that emailed this to me. And I'm glad that he emailed myself and probably someone else on the board who feels the same way that I do. So I'm glad that this person emailed myself. It's Alderman Little. I yield the floor at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments from the members of the board?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Maynard.
just wanted to announce to the public mayor and would ask to, if it's a willingness of the board, to have a special call meeting on February 3rd at 5 o'clock to interview city clerk candidates. And then at our regular meeting on February 4th, we will be interviewing the police chief candidates.
Are you asking if we have schedule conflicts?
Yeah, it'll need to be, I guess, if the sportsplex, I need to check with Mr. Peters and see if there's a meeting room available at the sportsplex on the 3rd, because this building will be being used for court that day.
So that's Monday, February 3rd. What time?
5.
At 5 o'clock. I have no conflicts. Is there anyone that does have a conflict Monday, February 3rd at 5 o'clock?
No, sir.
I'll be out of town, but I've made them aware of that. I'll be out
Okay.
of town that
Alderman Little will be out of town. I have not heard another conflict for the members of the board now. So, there's a couple of options. Of course, you can recess until 5 on the 3rd, with Alderman Little's consent. I don't mind making a special call, and of course, 2 board members can also make a special call, so those would be the options.
Yeah, let's do a special call. Let's do a special call.
And Alderman Little, would it offend you if I made a special call? All right, I'll be glad to make the call.
Thank you, sir.
All right, are there any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments?
The first was city clerk, second one was the police chief. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes, police chief will be on the regular meeting though, on the
Okay.
4th.
5:30?
Yes, sir.
Any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments? Any further comments? All right, seeing none, we will move to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening to the mayor and board. My name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. Want to recognize Vice Mayor Perkins and Alderman Vaughn.
Thank you, Alvin. Mr. Turner, thank you.
A week ago, this Tuesday, the Housing Authority, Neighborhood Watch, we had our monthly meeting, and we had a housing commissioner. It was 8 women and 1 man, myself, but he had an attitude problem, and he went off on 8 women, just boldly, and then left the meeting. Like, we feel like that, we need to have people that know how to talk to people. There's not children. A lot of those women were very upset that he had his own agenda, and that was to disrupt the meeting. And he refused to apologize. And me being a man, if you're gonna be a man, be a man. Don't take your frustration out on women just because you can. The next concern is police chief. We would like to have someone that already knows us, because at the present time, we have people who want to shoot at police, who want to fight police, and we really don't need no one when these things happen. We really don't need on-the-job training. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Do we have any further citizen comments this evening?
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. My name is Charlotte Fuquay, and I am from Ward 5. I would like to make one comment tonight, one bullet point here, having absolutely nothing to do with anything that you've been talking about any time recently. But this past week, in a paper and on television, there was some very good coverage about Mississippi State and an award that they got for their recycling efforts. And that got me to thinking, you know, Mississippi State University community, if what was said in the articles in the paper and on television is correct, is very well educated right now about recycling, how to do and what to do and why it's important. And that perhaps this would be a really good time to get the city of Starkville back on a bandwagon, or back interested in renewing or upgrading our city recycling program. I think that the city of Starkville has done a very commendable job with its bi-monthly recycling curbside pickup. I think it's gone well, and I think it's been well received in the city. But at this time, I would like to suggest that we begin thinking about going one step further than that, and actually consider going to a scheduled pickup of once a week recycling pickup and once a week garbage pickup. I think that, and then of course we have our regular once a week refuge pickup as well. That would remain as it currently is. I think that this would have all sorts of positive impacts in this town. I think it would be easier for homeowners, and sanitation department would definitely make a job easier for them, simplifying things all the way around. I have heard multiple comments from other people in this town about their recycling, and they just, twice a month is not enough. And that fifth Wednesday just gets everybody so confused. Then they don't know when's their what. When's the right Wednesday? So this would certainly simplify all that. We wouldn't even have to worry about a Wednesday anymore. I have heard that there are some plans and some other changes that are possibly in the works involving the sanitation department. And I would not address those. I said I had one bullet point for you tonight, and that is to consider once a week recycling and once a week garbage pickup. It's an exciting.
Your time's expired.
All right, thank you very much.
I want to comment while you're here. I agree with a lot of what you said, but also we found that recycling, to be honest, is not very cost effective for the city, and it isn't. But one thing we talked about one time, I remember in the past, was going to once a week pickup on the basically recycling's non-perishable items, and then you get what we call household garbage. When you start picking it up just once a week, it's kind of a lot of stuff that spoils and gets, you don't want it sitting in your house for a week at a time. I got an infant with a lot of dirty diapers, and we want those out of the house at least twice a week, if we can. But we had talked about that, but it's one of those that's, you kind of got to go, what's the best bang for your buck, what's the best return on investment? But you got a really good point about that. And 2 points to that I wrote around on Wednesday, I guess it was last week, and just surprised at how many people are recycling now. And we've had discussions on that. And the second thing the city did is they advertised on the garbage bag. So if anybody really, if they want to start and they go, what's that number? There's a number on every garbage bag that you open up with the city that's got it on there, and it's kind of bringing attention to that. But I do agree with a lot. I mean, that's just some points I wanted to say. You got to understand that we're kind of at a point now we're trying to juggle, what worked best, and maybe we might be able to throw in an extra recycling day sometime on those fifth week months. But all great points. I agree with most of them. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mr. Fuqua. Alderman Maynard.
Alderman Carver, I will say one thing. You'd be surprised at the number of major cities now that are just doing one day a week pickup
Really?
for garbage.
Is that for cans, or is that people that have bags?
They're cans. Chipper cans.
Cans.
Good evening. My name is Kayla Outlaw. I'm president of the Mayor's Youth Council. I'm speaking on behalf of them tonight. I just really want to say thank you for all your support. We are hosting the summit in Columbus. We're co-hosting it with Columbus, and I just wanted to show our efforts there, and your money that you donated is being well used. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Outlaw, and Kayla Outlaw. And this is a good time for me to interject some comments about the Mayor's Youth Council. I have had the opportunity recently to attend a couple of joint planning sessions that have taken place between the Mayor's Youth Council of Starkville and the Mayor's Youth Council of Columbus. And I am happy to report that this is a regional team that is working quite well together. As you know, a couple of years ago, the two councils co-hosted the Mayor's Youth Council State Conference at Mississippi State University. Columbus was tapped to be the host city with the W this year, and they kindly returned the favor, making us their co-host, as we did with them a couple of years ago. And a good portion of your budget line for the Mayor's Youth Council this year will go to help funding that conference. And most of the remainder of that budget will go to funding travel for the Youth Summit down on the coast this year. But you've got a great group this year, and a great president.
Thank you.
Do we have any further citizen comments?
Good evening. My name is Luther Hunter. I have a property out in the Rocky Hill community, which I have sold some property out that area. And me and my wife have bought our property in 1990. We've had it almost 24 years. And we was annexed into the city limit around about 1998, if I'm not wrong there. And it's been 16 years as from 98 to now. And during that time of the city limit, no one of the city representatives have never came to me and my wife asked for city ordinance and rules and regulations of the city property that we own. And we felt that we should have been advised of that out of 16 years in the city limit. Just now finding out what our rules and regulations can be and what cannot be. And for as a subdivision, it was stated that something about a subdivision. I'm not trying to start a subdivision. I don't need a subdivision because I have enough land to do me and my wife, so I'm not trying to perform or start no subdivision whatsoever in our community. All I did was sold some people some land that need somewhere to live, to have something they can call their own, and whatever they want to put on their property is their responsibility, not mine. And all we did is try to help someone. I think 2 years ago, the city came to my house. The only time I've ever seen a city official. Came to my residence, sit down at my table, and asked me that they want to run some sewage line through our community, and they need access to my property. And how much would I charge the city to run a sewage line through my property? I told the official, I said, if you're going to run a sewage line through here, I wouldn't charge you a dime, because I think it's a decent thing to do. 2 years later, it came to me again and said, Mr. Hunter, we need access to your property again to run fire plugs. And how much would you charge us to run fire plugs to our community, your community? And it might tear up some of your land, but we would replace everything we tear up. Timer?
1 minute.
Okay. And I told them again, if you're gonna put fire plugs through the city, our area, I wouldn't charge you a dime because that's a good thing to have. If people's house catch a fire, good thing to have to put their home out instead of hauling water in. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Mr.
Just
Hunter.
to straighten out a few things that was going on.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
Thank you.
Do we have any further citizen comments?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Demetria Chambers. I came to the last board meeting because I bought some land from Mr. Hunter, and I'm having problems acquiring sewage. I had spoken with you all, and at the end of the meeting, I was advised by the city attorney that I may need to seek legal representation or some, well, I have, and they impelled me to come back to you all because I'm still having problems. I talked to the lady at the health department. Mr. Latimer gave me a letter, and it went to them because they said they could not recommend a single septic system for me if the city didn't have a valid reason as to why they could not help provide me with city sewage. Well, the letter that they sent her, they said it's not a viable reason. They're not gonna recommend me a single septic system, so I have no way of having anything. The attorneys that I have talked to asked me to come back to you all and ask you all if we could reach a compromise, if you all could meet me halfway, or if it was anything to be done so that I can live in my home. I came to the city officials before I purchased the land. I found out everything I needed to know. They told me, okay, I purchased the land. Then I purchased my mobile home. I put my mobile home out there, And then someone else had bought land also, and that's when this problem arose. I was, on the letter also, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Latimer, I talked to you today. It says that if Mr. Hunter doesn't file paperwork to subdivide the land, that I should. Well, I don't have any land but that 1 acre. So I don't see how I can file paperwork subdividing his land. And if all this is not done, I'm not gonna be able to occupy my trailer. It's not fair to me. I pay rent and I pay a mortgage on a trailer that I cannot live in, of which I got clearance from all the city officials before I put it out there. It's not fair, and I'm coming to you to ask if there's any way you all can help me or meet me halfway so that I can live in my home.
Chambers, as litigation has been threatened in this case, I would recommend any discussion of this matter be held in executive session.
I'd like to discuss it in executive session.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Chambers. Do we have any further citizen comments?
Mary Lee Bill, Ward 1. Most of you all know me, and sitting here and looking at the board, you all know how much I love and care for this city and how much I want to see this city progress. I am absolutely appalled that you all advertised in 2 newspapers for 1 week for the chief of police position. Now, there may be someone well qualified within the city, but your responsibility is to seek the very best person that you can seek for this position. I have not seen any comments that anyone was opposed to this, so I would assume that it's a silent majority and everyone is in favor of this. I find that so difficult to believe. This is such an important position for this city. You need to give it your due consideration. You need to select the very best person that you can. And it would appear, by the way you all have conducted this business in the past week or so, that you all have your mind made up and you are going through the process. If I understood correctly, you're going to interview the applicants the 1st of February. So I know with the minor decree that you all had to advertise supposedly sort of locally for a week, then you could go outside. Apparently there's no intention to go outside. I just cannot believe that the 7 of you all are in total agreement that this is the way this board wants to select the police chief, wants to select the possible assistant police chief. There's going to be another department head position open. You all need to think about what's the best for the city. And changing a little bit, Ms. Wynn, you need to learn or find out for sure exactly what the requirements are when you talk about certain areas for sidewalks. If they are not allowed outside on the bypass, then they're not allowed. I know you are very much against sidewalks. I know you want to do away with sidewalks, the sidewalk ordinance. But you need to think again about what's best for the city of Starkville. And approximately 2 months ago, when the discussion was coming up about the cell phones, with all due respect to you, you said you wanted some respect. Ms. Wynn, you will be given respect when you earn it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bill.
Mr. Mayor.
Hold on, I'm hearing 2 of you. I heard here first. Alderman Perkins.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the recognition. I want to pose a question to the city attorney so the media and the public can understand the consent decree that we operate under for employment purposes. And I want the city attorney to make it clear to the media and the public in light of the comments from my former colleague who represented Ward 1, the Honorable Mary Lee Bill. So if the city attorney would share with the media and the public our consent decree that this board and the court approved back in 2004, and the city had a revised employment policy to comply with that 2004 consent decree. So, Mr. Attorney, will you share with the media and the public, inform them that we're in compliance with everything that we have done with not only the police chief application, but all other applications, and we're not running afoul of the law, and inform them that we're doing everything to the letter and to the spirit of the law. Would you please inform the media and the public and anyone out there and who may be watching this on TV so they'll clearly understand that this board is fully complying with the consent decree of the United States District Federal Court and with our own employment policy. Would you speak to that, please, sir?
Yes, sir. The case that you reference is Minor versus the City of Starkville. It is from the United States District Court, Northern Division, or Northern District, Eastern Division, as you allege or say back in 2004. The language of the agreed judgment is very clear. It says all vacancies in any positions will be advertised first in newspapers in the Golden Triangle area. Advertising in media outside of the Golden Triangle area will only be done if the position is not filled from applicants received within a reasonable period after this advertisement period locally. And the city is in full compliance with the judgment with its advertisement for both the police chief position and the city clerk position.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For those of you that were just listening, Mrs. Beal said that I want to do away with sidewalks. Let me be clear. I do not want to do away with sidewalks. For those of you who know me personally, my mother was, both of her legs were amputated. She passed away in August of 2012. I have a cousin here. His name is Carlos Hill. He resides in the Rolling Hills area of town. My cousin can't walk for very long distances because he's disabled. For me to be anti-sidewalk would be slapping my mother, whom I care deeply about. She's the person who nurtured me into becoming the woman that I am today. That would be disrespectful to her. It would be disrespectful for my cousin Carlos Hill and the many other people that reside here in our city, come to our city to visit, and any other American here in the United States and anywhere else. It would be disrespectful for me to be anti-sidewalk. So let's make the record clear. I am not anti-sidewalk, but I do want a balance in our city for our residents and our developers. And let me say this, of course she left. I am sorry that Mrs. Beal's efforts in becoming an elected official in Starkville, they were unsuccessful. For her to share the seat that Mayor Parker Wiseman, that our residents here in Starkville have chosen to lead our city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I yield the floor at this time.
Alderman Little.
I'd like to echo some of the confusion that she just mentioned, Ms. Beal mentioned a moment ago, because I know, I've been somewhat familiar with the minor decree. It's been mentioned over the last several months, and my question, a few weeks ago, there was an email floated around that how we were going to go through the process from Mr. Boyd's office and had all the websites that was going to be advertised, and I was under that impression until just sometime shortly ago that we were doing it, and then unbeknownst, all of a sudden I found out, no, we've got to go by this court order that replaced the minor decree that's more stringent than the minor decree was, that we've been under since '04, but now we're going to be following it suddenly. And was the prior boards since '04, did they not follow this? That's Mr. Latimer, Mr. Mayor?
I certainly don't recall any instances where it wasn't followed. Can you speak to that?
I cannot, because I don't know how we advertise for certain local positions, whether they complied with the decree or not in the previous administration.
Mr. Boyd, can you answer that?
All of the positions have been advertised in the local papers. There have been instances in the past where boards have advertised certain other advertising on websites for certain positions, but it has been on a very limited basis. I was not familiar with the 2004 order of the board until just in the last 2 weeks. It was brought to my attention, and I had not seen that previously, but it is a matter of minutes of the board, and it does state emphatically that our advertising will be a minimum of 2 papers in the Golden Triangle, and that will be done first before there's any advertising outside of this area, including outside websites or anything.
When, When was the last time we advertised for a department head position via a website? Do you recall?
I believe it would have been the community development director.
So that was last April, March, sometime in the spring? I know
I
you,
think that's correct, yes.
and we did a national search or, went out on
We
databases?
advertised on websites other than the two local papers.
So the only thing that's changed since last spring and now is that you've been made aware of the court order?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor.
Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, the court order has been approved by United States District Federal Court. It is the law of the land as it applies to the city of Starkville, Mississippi. So what is the problem? The court order is going to remain the law unless and until it is modified by the federal district court. So it doesn't matter what has happened in the past, it is the law. I mean, we just have to follow the law. And as to some website, the board has not authorized a website. We have authorized that we follow the employment policy and to follow the law. So the city attorney has just succinctly stated the law, and that's what we have to follow. So we got that in place. So, Mr. Mayor, there's nothing else we can do. I mean, we got the law, we got to follow it, whether we like it or not. There are plenty of laws in this country that we may not all agree with, but if it is the law of the land, that's what we're governed by. You may not like to follow the law that says stop at every stop sign, but you better stop. Because if not, there are consequences. And the same thing about this employment policy. So that's just the way it is. So, we don't have the authority to change that in this room tonight. So that law was in effect when this position was approved, and we need to move on to the next matter because we're not going to change the court order sitting here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Little.
I'd like to clarify too that I did not say that I was not against the law. I'm all about following the law. And for clarification, I just want to be consistent in following the law from this point forward, because apparently it was not followed in the prior boards. Thank you. I yield the floor.
At this time, do we have any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments?
To the mayor, to the board, my board of aldermen, I would just like to say, I, George Isaac, come in today, and I come in for fair treatment, and that's to see what's going on in my city, and to be alert, and to do what's right. I would just like to say, we do have applicants here, right here in our city, that's capable of taking over what we need to be done as police chief. It's time that we stop putting race everywhere. I'm just gonna put it on the bottom line. Race, that's what we're talking about. Regardless of if you're black or white, you got the qualifications, you've been here in the city, we might as well stop skipping around on horses and start talking about where the horse needs to go. I'm not saying put anybody in there, but if they're qualified, and we do have some that are qualified, I would like to say, let's do it. We know how we advertise. We know what happened when the last police chief was elected. I'm quite sure everybody got it in their records of what happened. Everybody know what happened at that time. You know what happened during the administrators. You know mistakes gonna be made, regardless of what. But we do have people that are qualified, and that's the rules. And we all come to the city meeting. We all study what goes on in the city government, and we know what goes on. Let's stop beating around the bush. It's time now. If we don't go with what our city needs instead of what some folks think what it needs, and everybody got an opinion. And the opinion to me is just like everybody got it. So we got to do it. But let's do what's right. Quit beating around the bush. The man on yesterday, I don't know how many of you attended, but the man on yesterday said during the Martin Luther King march, he said, let's do what's right. He said, let's do what's right. So let's do what's right. And as for taking back stammering and talking about different people, you know what they are. Everybody got an opinion. And like I say, y'all got y'all opinion. But you was elected to do a job. Please do it, represent the city, and be fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Isaac. Do we have any further citizen comments at this time? Any further citizen comments?
Sandra Sistrunk, Ward 2. I'd like to ask y'all to consider supporting some legislation that is in committee at the state legislature right now. It is the Community Economic Development Act. The Mississippi Municipal League has tried to get this out of the legislative committee and to a vote for years now and have not had much luck with it. Essentially what it would do is allow a local municipality to enact up to a 1 cent sales tax locally without having to go to the legislature for a local and private bill. It would require a referendum at the municipal level if the municipality wished to enact it. It would have to be linked to a capital improvement project. They're very strict criteria that would have to be met before this could be enacted. And essentially, it is what has happened in Jackson with their recent election for enacting a 1 cent sales tax that they will use to address their aging infrastructure with water and drainage issues. It may be something that Starkville might want to use someday. It may never come across Starkville's radar as a tool to use, but it might help another community. So in the past, the Mississippi Municipal League has provided draft letters of support. We voted with the last board to endorse this bill. It would carry some weight, I think, if y'all would put your political weight behind this. And again, it may or may not help Starkville. It might help another community. I think it's what you as leaders should be doing, is looking at what's in the best interest of the state, where you can make such an have such an impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman
Sister,
Sistrunk.
has a number been assigned to that?
I'm sure there has been, but I don't know what it is. Mississippi Municipal League always has this information up and available. So,
Thank you. Any further citizen comments?
I'd like to be recognized.
Alderman Vaughn.
Mr. Mayor, I've been sitting here going on my 5th term, and it just hurts me to see that we elected officials had to sit here and take this from the public, how they sit and talk about us. I mean, we was elected by the people for the peoples. We are human beings. We try to make the best decision that we can make, knowing all the time we're not going to please everybody whatever our decisions we make. But this board been talked about so bad, it just brings shame to my heart for these people just sit out here and talk about us like they do not have families, like they do not belong to someone else. But God is not pleased with what they sit out here and say and what we do. We got to be thankful that we are human beings too. We have feelings. It's a shame that they get out there and sit out there and talk and go home and lay down and look at tomorrow. But tomorrow is not promised. It's a shame that you do that. And you elected us. You elected all 7 of us to serve you. But you're so disgraceful and so unthankful for the decision that we do make. You never say anything good about what this board do. It's always something bad that this board doing. It's a shame on you all. It's a disgrace in the sight of God. I yield.
Do we have any further citizen comment?
Mr. Mayor, let me be right.
Alderman Nguyen.
Because I can certainly feel that there's some pain with Alderman Vaughn, and we speak often. And granted, in this business, you have to have thick skin. For me, when I go home and I made a decision here and I can look myself in the mirror, I feel good. When I go out into the community, receive emails or telephone calls from people that live within my ward or outside of my ward, I feel great about the decision that is in the direction that we're going in for our city. No one has ever said that it's going to be easy. But Alderman Vaughn, let me say this to you. The people that praise us, they don't attend these board meetings most of the time. They're your silent majority here in Starkville. I can assure you of that. They're your silent majority. I always tell Alderman Little, I talk to him often sometimes, and I tell him, I said, you know, I felt good. I was in the grocery store today and someone stopped me to make a comment about someone on the board, make a comment about Vice Mayor, who recently, a couple of months ago, tried to get us to see the beauty of us needing to take electronic devices out of our room, out of this room. We were not trying to silence anyone. nor were we trying to hide anything. And you know what? I called Alderman Perkins, Vice Mayor Perkins, a couple of weeks ago. And I said, you know what? I said, we didn't go along with you and support that. Well, of course I did. There were a couple that didn't. And you know, we had a CAO interviews a couple of weeks ago. You all know what happened? Members that were attending that day, they tweeted out the questions that we were asking of the CAO candidates. How unfair and disrespectful that was to our board. And to think that we're going to soon be interviewing a police chief for our town. Guess what? They will have to use their electronic devices, and guess what? Same thing will perhaps be done. I've said all of that to say this. Alderman Vaughn, I know that you find comfort in your faith, and I do. This is a tough business to be in, but I am pleased to serve on this board because I believe in my heart we are not a business as usual board. That's what someone told me when he took me out on January the 2nd, who was so supportive of me and my candidacy. And you all know it was a hard road here. But I got here because guess what? Our town wanted change. If they didn't want change, Alderman Vaughn, 4 of us would not be sitting here at this board. I can assure you, we have 4 new members. Myself, Alderman Little, Alderman Maynard, and Alderman Walker. If our town had wanted the same old as business as usual, guess what, we'd have it. But you're sitting before a board, we shook it up, we need to keep on going, and guess what? I'm on the ship and I'll be there for the next, till 2017, and who knows, I might decide to run again. We'll see. I yield the floor at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments this evening? Do we have any further citizen comments? Seeing none, our public hearing this evening was held during the adoption of the agenda. The items under mayor's business and board business have been moved to the consent agenda. The next matter you have before you for your consideration is the request for approval of the City of Starkville claims docket as of January 16th.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments as of January 16th, 2014 for fiscal year ending on September 30th, 2014. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
I do not.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for approval of the Starkville Electric Department claims docket as of January 2nd.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of the Starkville Electric claims docket as of January 2nd as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, this measure passes. The next matter you have before you is the request for approval of the job description of the Assistant Chief of Police at a salary grade 16 and to advertise to fill the position after a police chief has been selected. Discussion.
Mayor, I asked for this to be taken off of the consent for one reason only. I think it's putting the cart before the horse as far as you don't know who the chief's going to be, and you don't know what he wants to make. And this is actually coming in and changing the whole chain of command, or however you want to call it. But for somebody that may not want it to happen, and with this comes I think 11 different promotions or upgrades within the department. So I'm not saying that I'm against it. I just think it's a little premature to do. So with that, I'm going to vote against it.
Alderman Little.
I'd like to echo my counterpart, Alderman Carver. We haven't hired a chief yet. I don't understand what the urgency is here. It's not a budgeted item. I don't know that there's a need to move forward with it right now. We haven't had one for, I believe, 4 years, Mr. Outlaw, Chief Outlaw. I think that's something we can hold up on right now and maybe address it later on and let the new chief decide what the needs are there and advise this board. I yield the floor.
Alderman Nguyen.
Right now, we don't know who our next police chief is gonna be. I say let's wait until that person, assumes those responsibilities and let he or she comes before us and asks for that, and we'll be able to prepare to make a decision at that time based on that recommendation.
Further discussion? Alderman Maynard.
I have no problem at all with the police chief making that recommendation. I would like to get this position back on the books, mainly for the clarity of succession planning and having the opportunity to put those in place. I think as this board came in, was elected, we came in with a series of department heads, the majority of the department heads that were at retirement age or very close to retirement age. I'm not sure that we've done an adequate job in the past of preparing our succession plan to move forward. In looking at this position, based on openings that are within the department right now and the promotions that would come, it would certainly be close to budget neutral if we did not fill the vacant positions that were there now. I feel like we need this position. I don't feel like, and the reason I changed it on the floor at the very beginning, we don't need to advertise the position tonight. We need to wait and let the new chief get in place prior to advertising the position, but I would like for us to get it on the books and move forward with it. And with that, I would recommend approval of the job description of assistant chief at the salary grade 16 to advertise and fill the position upon the new police chief being elected. His or her input sought.
Alderman Maynard, is that a motion?
Yes, sir.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the job description of the Assistant Chief of Police at salary grade 16, otherwise as presented, and to advertise to fill the position after a chief of police has been elected and his or her input has been sought. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
It is, yes, sir.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna second that. I agree with the,
Hold on 1 second. Alderman Maynard, it's been seconded by Alderman Perkins. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Perkins.
Thank you for the recognition, Mayor. I concur with the budget chair and the gentleman from Ward 5, and I do remember reading some correspondence that the acting chief recommends this as well, and he has already served in that position, so that is very weighty with me, and I certainly give deference to our former assistant police chief and now acting chief of many, many years. So I give deference. He's in law enforcement. I am a lawyer, so I give great respect to what his opinion is, and I agree with the budget chair. So with those things collectively, I am of the opinion that this is a prudent thing to do, and we've had that before, and assistant chief then and acting chief now did a very exemplary job, and he is very familiar with the meticulous and comprehensive details and workings of that position, and he is now our acting chief. So I'm gonna go with this recommendation, and I further concur with the budget chair, and I don't find any basis to not concur with the acting chief, and I always find his decisions to be with merit. And so I'm going to take what I think is very conservative and prudent action in this instance. So Chief Outlaw, I'm gonna call you Chief, not acting at this instance, and appreciate the recommendation. And that's what we have you here for, to give us advice and counsel in that area. So I agree with what you're saying, and I agree with the budget chair, and we're just so fortunate to have the leadership of our former assistant chief, Mr. John Outlaw, and who worked with us at least about 30 or more years, and that was his recommendation, and the budget chair has given his opinion, our duly elected budget chair, that this is budget neutral. So I don't see any sound basis to vote against this. With those reasons being said, I just respectfully request on my colleagues who have announced opposition to reconsider their views and those who have not spoken to join in on the motion. And I yield the floor, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion. All right, I see Walker, I see Wynn.
Oh, no.
I see Walker, then I see Carver.
Just a point of clarification. Again, I read your recommendation. I appreciate that. My question is, the way the motion is read now is that, I believe, unless correct me if I'm wrong, is that once the police chief is hired, then they will ask sort of their opinion on what it is. What if it turns out that their opinion is, we don't want to change the structure, that we want to keep the structure as it is? At that point, what happens? So the motion clearly assumes that the new elected police chief, new appointed police chief, would approve of this motion, so it would be advertised and filled immediately.
Ultimately, yeah, it's the board's decision to create and fill any position in city government. So that's the most direct answer to your question. As a practical matter, I would have a hard time envisioning the scenario where you would name a police chief that did not want an assistant chief of police, and the board would insist on making the hire. Now, with respect to this motion doesn't do anything that would tie your hands, where at a later point you would have to hire an assistant police chief. Further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman Carver, I'm sorry, I missed you before.
That's fine. And this is not disrespectful to you at all, Chief Outlaw, because I know we've disrupted your hunting season and your time away from the house. But this is the way I look at it is he has come back and so graciously been our interim, but at the time he is just an interim, and we're just at the edge of a cliff, or we're at the verge of just hiring a full-time permanent police chief, and we're talking apparently within a week. So, I mean, why can't we wait a week? This is not a time-sensitive issue, and again, that's why I vote against it. I know I would like to see the chief come in, and if this is how he wants it, if this is how he wants to restructure it, let that be one of his first things to do. You know, this would be a good time for him to come in front of the board and recommend it, and we'll do it then. But it just, again, there is no time sensitivity to this, and if I'd like to wait and let the police chief, the new chief, whoever it be, make that effort and work with the board, and we'll work at that end. So, thank you.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, at this time, we'll move into a vote on Alderman Maynard's motion. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 4 in favor with 3 against, this measure passes. That concludes the open session portion of our agenda. You do have matters potentially before you for consideration in executive session. A motion to go into closed session. Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to go into closed session to determine whether there is a need for an executive session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The measure passes. I'll now ask that everybody clear the room so that the board can go into closed session deliberation to determine whether there is a need for an executive session. Without objection, I'm going to move us into a brief recess. Any objection?
Take what now?
Without objection, I'm going to 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Yes, ma'am. We're going to be cold. We're going to get out of here.
Requested by the grievant from the police department and that she be notified by the city clerk in writing in less than 3 days. Then the second motion was to move to deny all relief requested by the grievant from the fire department and that he be notified in writing by the city clerk in less than 3 days.
All right, with no further pending business, a motion to adjourn is in order.
Mayor, stand adjourned to 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, February 4th, 2014.
Motion has been made by Alderman Perkins to stand in adjournment until February 4th, 2014 at 5, oh wait, no.
5:30.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna make a special call. At 5:30 in the City Hall courtroom. Alderman Perkins, that's your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Perkins, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Saying none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Hey, leave those grievance on the table. Leave your grievance on the table.
You said you wanted to do that?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Leave your grievance. Leave your grievance.
Did we